So tell us a little bit about your mortgage background and how you decided to transition into real estate from there.
Welcome to this week's episode of Hey Homegirl.
Hey, Homegirls. On this week's episode, we are in Bow, New Hampshire with Ashley Gendreau. Ashley is an agent that works for the same brokerage I do, and she is by far my home gal. So let's dig in and hear her story. Hey, Homegirls. Welcome to this week's episode of the Hey Homegirl podcast. I have an unbelievably special guest with us today, my very own Ashley Gendreau, who is my homegirl. Hence the t-shirts. Some of you might not be able to see them out in podcast world, but for our YouTube viewers, we are rocking matching t-shirts that Ashley got for me as a gift, and we try to wear them every time that we're together. One of the places that you can follow Ashley is at her Instagram channel. She is at Your Homegal Ashley, and she works for the same brokerage. She has a really unique story, and she brings so much to the table. So Ashley is licensed in 3 states currently.
Yes, ma'am.
So she's licensed in 3 states, but you also have a mortgage background and you're an executive assistant for the leader of our company who has over 800 agents. So you are wearing so many amazing hats.
Yes, I do. And on top of being licensed in 3 states and executive or project manager for our brokerage, I also have a degree. And that degree is a very unique degree because it's in American Sign Language / English interpretation as well. So if I ever run across a hard of hearing person or a deaf person and they're looking for a house, I can at least communicate with them through the showing. And then I know all the resources to go to help get them equal access for the negotiations, for the closing, for the home inspection, because I'm not a licensed interpreter. So anything that I could say, and if I were to say it wrong, they could take me to court and sue me, just like in the real estate world. If we misrepresent something or we don't disclose something, we can get sued. Our brokerage can get sued. It's kind of the same idea, not being a licensed interpreter. So I have that background as well. So I am kind of a multifaceted person, I guess.
And I think that's why you and I get along so good, because we both have this passion to better ourselves and for education.
Yes. I'm always willing to learn new stuff. And even if on the first try I don't get it, and here's just how tenacious I am or how persistent I am, it took me more times than I'm willing to admit to pass the national exam for real estate. I know it doesn't matter, but to me, I had to take it more than 5 times. I missed it by mere points every time, but I kept at it. And the last time I took the test, I walked out of there feeling like I finally did it. And then I got my sheet and I saw that I passed. And I went in my car and I freaking cried for 5 minutes before I left, because I'm like, holy crap, I just passed this test that I've taken so many times. And I think the reason why I passed is because I realized that I had to think like I was the test. And for the national test, it's very different than the state test, because any state law test that you take to get your real estate license in another state, it's black and white. There's no, or this answer, you have to pick the better of the 2. For the national, you have 4 answers. 2 of the answers could be correct, but you have to pick the better of the 2 correct. So I always would second guess myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finally started to say, I know this stuff. Why am I second guessing myself? So when I turned my mindset around about the test, that's when I finally passed. And I had been changing my mindset all along. So like the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th time, I finally passed on them. That 9th time taking the test, I was like, I can do this. If I can get licensed in New Hampshire, I can get licensed in other states, because if anyone else can do it, I can do it. And that's the attitude of someone else in our brokerage, another top producing agent. I have that same attitude. I just don't go out and say that that's my attitude. I kind of like to be quiet about my stuff, and I like my work to show. I don't like to flaunt what I do. I like my work ethic and what I do and how I treat my clients. So I'm a little different than other realtors like that, because you don't see me posting on social media like, oh, I have this listing appointment, or oh, I have this upcoming listing. I keep that to myself. And because you never know, like something could go wrong and you don't get the listing at the last second, or something could go wrong with a home inspection and you're not under contract anymore, or there's a lot of things that can happen. So I try and keep, for my clients, confidentiality as well. I try and keep that quiet until it closes or until it's rented or until it's sold. So I work a little different than a lot of realtors. Social media, yes, I know we need it. I know I need to get better at posting my IG stories and, tips from the Outback every week. But I'm like our CEO of our brokerage. I find social media to be a nuance and a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So I only do it when I have something that I really want to shout out to the world, because everyone knows me. They know I'm in real estate. They know who I am. They know I'm licensed in 3 states. They might not know I have a sign language background, but that's fine. So I'm like, I don't need to flaunt who I am because they already know who I am.
Yes. And it's beautiful that you were able to overcome that adversity and not let that limit you. You overcame that and then you move forward to get licensed in multiple states, which is so amazing.
And I'm not done yet. I want to
No.
get licensed in Vermont too at some point.
That's awesome. That's so good. And then maybe Connecticut and Rhode Island.
I could be to like Providence in like an hour and a half, but why would I want to drive an hour and a half to Rhode Island when I could be to Maine in 50 minutes, or I could be to Vermont in 50 minutes from my house? And from most of our offices, they're so close that I don't see a need to get licensed in Connecticut or Rhode Island. I mean, the only reason to maybe get Rhode Island would be to get Florida, but I have no interest in getting Florida. So Connecticut and Rhode Island and Florida to me are off the table. But, our broker owner, she's like, who knows where the next office is going to open? She's like, it could be Chicago, it could be North Carolina, it could be New York, Kentucky, who knows? So maybe down the line, I'll get like another state, like maybe New York or North Carolina or whoever, but Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Florida, not for me.
Not at this time. It's good that you understand that about yourself and that you know how to set goals for yourself. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your mortgage background and how you decided to transition into real estate from there.
So my mortgage background is as a mortgage processor. So I processed mortgages for right around 4.5, 5 years, and COVID. So interest rates were in the 2s, low 3s. So I was working crazy hours, 12, 14-hour days, some days, for a company on the seacoast. And then I didn't really have any incentive to stay at the company. I'm not going to name names just for privacy reasons. And then when I left that, I went to another mortgage company. I worked remotely from my house for just over a year before they laid me off due to them not having the budget in their finances to keep me for 2022. And while I was a mortgage processor, I was doing real estate part-time. So I had already had my real estate license before I became a mortgage processor. So having a mortgage background can help me if I have clients who are FHA or VA and we go see homes and they ask me, hey, what do you think the appraiser will call out? I always caveat, there is some peel and paint, or there is a handrail that's not on a staircase. It's up to the appraiser. So appraiser discretion if they call it out or not. Not every appraiser is the same. So I guide them and I educate them, but I always caveat that it's appraiser discretion. What one appraiser might call out on one house, a different appraiser might call out. Not all appraisers are the same. They're not all going to look at the house the same. Do FHA and VA they have to follow? Yes, but that doesn't mean they do the appraisals the same way.
And it's still open to their own interpretation of what the regulations are and their interpretation of the condition of the home.
Correct. And sometimes with VA, there's something called Tidewater. Not a lot of realtors know what that is. And that's just something for VA loans. If there's a discrepancy in the price or you want to justify why you offered what you did, you can do something called Tidewater, and that's only for VA, but the appraiser has to enact that or start the process of Tidewater.
Yes. I was actually having that discussion yesterday as I walked them through the home that, sometimes it does depend on what mood the appraiser is in that day when they show up at the house. If they have a whole list of homes to get done by the end of the day, they might rush through it and miss things. But another day that they might be slow, they might be more nitpicky about certain conditional items. So it's always important as an agent to follow up with the lender and ask, did the home appraise at value? And were there any conditions that are outstanding?
Yes. And with VA appraisals, appraisals, they take a minimum of 10 days. It's not like you'll get it within 3 or 4 days, because the VA, it has to go through the VA and then it assigned a case number and all of this stuff. So it takes a lot longer for VA appraisals, and that's not common knowledge to most realtors. And they're like, why is the appraisal taking so long to get done? Or I haven't been contacted by an appraiser. And it's like, you have a VA financing. VA loans are a totally different animal than your FHA and your conventional and your USDA. VA is a completely different animal when it comes to appraisals.
Yeah, so that's important for newer agents that might be listening in to understand that you're going to want to talk to your preferred lender, understand how to structure your offers, and always understand that there are different timelines depending on not only the market conditions, but the loan types that are out there also.
And perfect example that you mentioned is talking to your lender. So with my clients that are under contract in Western New Hampshire, they're VA buyers. So even before we did an offer, I sent the property over to the lender and I said, hey, is there anything that I need to know that needs to go in the offer as far as a seller credit? If a seller credit is needed, how much of a seller credit, et cetera, et cetera. He told me that yes, we would need to do so. So I already had all of that knowledge even before I went and showed the clients this house that we would need to do a seller credit. And with the VA as well, when you do a seller credit, you have to put in certain verbiage. Otherwise, the VA lender will kick it back and say, no, we're not going to take this seller credit because it has to cover closing costs, discount point, and prepaid. So that verbiage has to be in your seller credit offer if you're going to ask for a seller credit for a VA, because if not, they're not going to take the seller credit because what's it going to cover, and the VA
get that money back.
About that.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. We're not quite finished yet, but as the homegirl of your hometown, I would love to pass the mic to you so that you can share your story and some of your secrets with the homegirl community. To apply, please go to howtobeahomegirl.com in the show notes.
Yeah, so this is a great point for our viewers to understand that, you might hang your license at a brokerage and you might have an amazing mentor, or you might have to train yourself. And some brokerages will say about mortgages, leave that up to the professionals. But the more that you can educate yourself on the language and the terms and the different types of mortgages that are out there, the better you're going to be able to not only service your clients, but the easier you're going to find it to work with other lenders that are out there, because you'll have that knowledge base, which is one of the things that I think just makes your story so great.
Why, thank you. And another point that you say is that a lot of newer agents or even experienced agents have no idea what TRID is. They don't know what Regulation Z is. And I'm like, you've been a realtor for 10 plus years and you don't know what TRID is. You don't know what Regulation Z is. You don't know that if your buyers don't sign the close and disclosure 3 days prior to closing, you can't close. I'm so flabbergasted that there's so many agents in the industry that don't know what any of that is because they don't take the time to educate themselves on the mortgage process. And I feel lucky. Well, I don't know if I want to say I feel lucky, but I feel
empowered.
Yes, empowered. And I feel more educated as a realtor, but I feel like I can educate my buyers more than your average agent can, because if a listing agent knows that I have a mortgage background and I understand the whole process, whether it be the mortgage and the transaction side on the real estate side, more often than not, they're going to go with my offer. I've found, I don't flaunt that I'm like a mortgage processor or I have that knowledge, but I have had some listing agents ask me, they're like, how do you know all of this verbiage? They're like, I don't see this in typical offers. So then I have a conversation with them that I have a mortgage processing background. So that's how I know. And they're like, oh, so you understand Regulation Z and TRID? And I said, yes. And I had an offer that got accepted one time because I had that knowledge, where there was 4 other offers on the table and they didn't have that knowledge. So, granted, it didn't end up working out because the buyer backed out at home inspection, but that just goes to show that no matter what your background is, it can always be useful in some way, even if you don't think it's going to be.
100%. And it's so important as an agent, understand that you're running your own small business and it's your job to educate yourself on all aspects of our industry. So take your preferred lender to lunch, take 2 or 3 different lenders to lunch, learn about their process, learn about their timelines, and then turn around and do the same with an attorney. A good closing attorney who wants to earn your business will take the time to answer your questions. Understand what the biggest objections are that come up for title issues. Understand why a missing discharge can take modifying. Understand why a probate that wasn't filed correctly could really inhibit your client's ability to sell the house down the road. And always recommend title insurance.
Right. Or even in some states, outstanding child support, you can't close until that child support has been paid.
Yes.
And whether it be
Or if
paid
they filed bankruptcy.
and you can't pay it at the closing table, it has to be paid prior to, and it has to be shown that it is paid. Otherwise, there's lenders out there that won't give you the mortgage and they won't approve the mortgage because you have outstanding debts that need to be fulfilled. And if you have outstanding child support, guess what? It's going to show up on title work. You're not going to be able to get away with it because I process mortgages like that. And the person who was applying for the mortgage is like, what do you mean I have outstanding child support? No, I don't. And I said, is this your social security number? Is this your date of birth? Is this? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, then this child support lien is yours and it needs to be paid. And they're like, well, what if I can't pay it? I said, you're not going to get approved for the loan. So don't hide anything. Be upfront with the lender because the more you hide, the more they're going to find and the more it's not going to look good on you.
Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, you are the project manager, the executive assistant. You wear all of the hats for a brokerage that has over 800 agents. And you get to see the agents from the very beginning when they join the brokerage, all to the ones that have been there for over 20 years. So for the agents that are on the higher threshold, the ones that are the top producers, the ones that are consistently busy, what do you think is one of the biggest factors for why they're able to sustain such a good business?
So one of the factors is I think because I have a mindset that is different than the newer agent or the part-time agent. And part of that mindset is from our CEO owner is that if you're not making money, you're not going to go on vacation because a lot of the top producers in our company, and there's a lot of them, if you look at them, a lot of them go away a lot or a lot of them
at least 4 times a year.
Or a lot of them take time, even if it's a couple days, they take time and they go do something local, like they'll go to New York for a weekend or whatever. So a lot of our top producing agents, especially at our brokerage, which is even though we're an independent brokerage, I don't call us a small brokerage. I call us a kind of fairly big brokerage for being independent with over 800 agents. So going on vacation and having a mindset that if anyone can do it, you can do it. And you have to prove to yourself that you can do it, but also working out, not changing your daily routine just to get a transaction. So for me, I wake up in the morning, I do a couple quick stretches, take a shower, I get ready, I go to the office. When I get to the office, I make a to-do list for the day, and then I do some more stretches before I sit down for the day. And sometimes when I work, I stand up and I work and I do stretches while I'm working. So for me, that's kind of my routine. If I stray from my routine, the rest of the day, I'm like squirrel brained and I'm like, wait a second, what was I going to do? I completely forget what I'm going to do. So if I miss any of my, I guess, routines or my daily ritual, daily habit, the rest of my day is thrown off. And I'm like, I feel so out of whack that I cannot focus. So I think having a set routine also helps.
So for agents that want to elevate their business, really focusing in on mindset and consistency are 2 of the small things that they can do themselves on a daily basis that don't cost any money to kind of help that production happen.
Yes. And for me, one of the things that I do, and I can thank you for this, is that if I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to do this today, or I'm not feeling this today, I have a sticker. I'm not going to say what it says because it's inappropriate, but you can imagine it's some inappropriate, colorful language. And then it says your mood and do
it's okay. We can say it out loud because this isn't a PJ podcast. So a couple of years ago at a Tom Ferry summit, there was a guest speaker and the whole motivational speech was about when he hiked Mount Everest. And he just kept reminding himself that it's all a mindset game. And his motto for that trip was fuck your mood, do it anyway. And so we have these amazing stickers that had been made up. And for my coaching clients, I pass those on because we do need to remember every day that our success is in our mindset. And if you can get up every day, remind yourself that you're unemployed and get to work and do good by your clients and do good by the people in your sphere, you're going to make money.
So when my mindset isn't good, I just look at the sticker and I'm like, just fuck your mood and do it anyway, because you're going to do it anyway. So just fuck the mood and do it. Get it done. So
see, it's so much better when we say it out.
It is, but I didn't know if could, so I didn't want to
And for all of our viewers out there, you have to remember that we're from New England girls, New England communities, that's like just a term of endearment. We're not like the South or the West where you have to be more proper. So hopefully we didn't offend you today, but that's just
Although they're not as proper as you think they are in the South, because bless your heart does not mean God bless you or bless your heart or whatever. It's telling you to, yeah, I didn't know if you knew that, but little trivia fact. So anytime you hear somebody in the South say bless your heart, they're telling you politely to fuck off.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I heard that on the radio the other day and I'm like, nah. And then I Googled it and I'm like, whoop.
And if you put it in context to when people have said that to you before, it probably makes more sense.
Yes.
I'm going to have to ask my girlfriend, Tracy Dugan, about that because when we were just recently in Frisco together, I think she said, bless your heart to me like 5 times. And maybe she was actually telling me to go away. I don't know.
Ask her, see what she says.
So we're just kind of wrapping up today. At the end of each episode, as you know, because I know you're a listener, I ask, what is one piece of empowering advice you can give to the other females in our industry?
One piece of advice: treat your clients, and this goes for anyone, not just females, is I tell my clients up front, you might hate me. There's going to be times that you like me. There's going to be times that you don't like what I'm telling you. There's going to be times that you want to argue with me. There's going to be times that you want to swear at me. Go ahead, do it all, because guess what? It's not going to affect me personally. It's just part of the transaction. And guess what? Am I going to kick you to the curb after closing? No. Am I going to forget about you? No. Are you just going to be some contact in my phone? No. You're going to be family. You're going to become family throughout this transaction. You're not getting rid of me, because guess what? I'm still going to pop up in your life. I'm going to send you house anniversary cards, or I'm going to text you. I might even pop up at some random time, leave something on your doorstep when you're not home, or just knock on the door when you're home. Surprise visit. Tell my clients that no matter how the transaction goes, no matter how mad you get, no matter how much you want to hate me, I'm still going to love you. I'm still going to consider you family. And with my clients right now for Western New Hampshire, we're already like at that family, and they're already like, we can't wait to have you over for holidays with our family and whatever. They're like, they love me. They already are referring me to friend like 10 plus acres in New Hampshire, but he'll probably reach out to me mid-winter because he doesn't want to do anything till next year. So that just goes to show that this transaction hasn't even closed yet. And just because of how I've treated them like family and vice versa, they're already know, like, and trust me, because they're already referring me to their friends. And we didn't even have a conversation about referrals or whatever. I just said, hey guys, if you know anyone that wants to look in New Hampshire and Maine, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to help them. And they're like, oh great. They're like, we weren't even going to ask you if we could send these people to you. We were just going to tell them about you because you've been awesome this entire time. So I said, well, that's perfect then. So just treat your client like family, because if you treat them just like a number at a deli, or just to get paid, or just because you want the sale to be the top 5 in the company or the top 25, don't waste your time, because guess what? They're going to treat you how you're treating them, and you're not going to like it.
And you're right. That does go through, you know, whether you're a male or a female agent, no matter how long you've been experienced in the industry, it's excellent, excellent advice. And the reality is that most families have love-hate relationships. So, you know, we are in a position in our career where we get to have these really intimate relationships, intense, intimate relationships with our clients. And the fact that you want to carry that on after closing and become a client for life is so impressive. So awesome job, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a guest today and sharing with our listeners all of your experience and knowledge.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
No, this was your first podcast.
It was.
Was it fun?
It was.
All right, cool. We did it. We got it over with.